Well, like I've always said, an ugly win is better than a sexy loss, I guess.
Gets there, knocks it down to the front. It gets it back. Goldie. Some poetry in slow motion from Goldie to Lucky. But you want to be him. He's got 9.
Welcome back to Further North, everybody. It's the morning after the blockbuster clash between North Melbourne and Essendon. But hey, like we're titling this episode from, well, what I've typed up on Canva already, an ugly win is better than a sexy loss or a pretty loss, whichever way you would like to put it. Joel, welcome along early on Sunday morning. How are you feeling after what we witnessed last night?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me again, Josh. It's one of those situations where, I'm very happy with the win. You want to be winning these games, but the method in which we did it wasn't as attractive as we would have liked. But that being said, 4 points is 4 points. Winning is the best, much better than losing. So I'll take that every time. So let's go on to next week now for Carlton and see how we go.
Yes, well, look, it was a bit of a cursed day for me yesterday. You know, worked from 8 to 3, which wasn't too bad. We all worked. That's a normal thing. Went to get the train in. Trains are all down on the Lilydale-Belgrave line, so I had to use all my diesel driving to Camberwell, then get the train in the rest of the way, and all to watch that slop fest. We did try to go to platform 28 as well. Fire alarms going off. Went to the Hoff, had the most overpriced schnitzel and one of the worst schnitzels I've ever had. So please don't go there, anybody. It is atrocious. But we did get to sit down inside, I guess. Anyway, it was a fun time. I did get to go on the radio. So if you did tune into that, thank you so much on 3AW. Interesting experience. Got the big headphones. Me and Libby were batting for North there while the host Shay McGuinness and obviously Rob were batting for Essendon. But what a fun time that was. So it's a big day yesterday. Got home really late at night. Had a bit of a headache at the game because I've been up for so long. I'm old now. And then my neighbour was having a gigantic rave party in the apartment building under mine. So I am tired, but I'm ready to talk about North. If you can sympathise with my day yesterday, everybody, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave comments down below, like the video and all that sort of stuff. We've got some big talking points out of this game, but where we're going to start is going into this game. We all know we were really, really nervous, but what were you expecting North to do? Were you expecting more of what we had against Port, or did you expect more of a scrappy game being against a team like the Bombers?
To be honest, I thought it would be a bit more of a scrappy game. Where you've got to give us a lot of credit is Essendon had come out. Essendon's intensity was very good around the ball. Their effort was really strong. They were trying really hard. They don't have the skill. I don't think they've got the cattle. I think they've got a very poor list, to be fair. But after the last couple of weeks, there was going to be some sort of response, and I think we did exceptionally well to absorb it at the start, and we still played through. The question marks we're asking ourselves at this point isn't around, for me, because I went back and watched the game. The question marks for me weren't as much around, I guess, our ability as much as it is our ability to consistently do it. And like you saw passages of play throughout the game where we were clearly the better side and better team. We just didn't do it for as long as we would have liked, I think, is probably the answer for the game.
Yeah, I think that is fair. I mean, when we were walking into the ground together, one thing I said was I can guarantee you North Melbourne won't kick the first goal. And then there was a stat thrown out. I didn't fact check this, but apparently we haven't kicked the first goal in a game since Richmond at the G last year. So that was first half of the season because we played them at the end of the season, in Tassie. So, I expected the first goal to go to the Bombers. That's a stat I'm going to be keeping close track on this podcast this year because I don't remember the last time we really kicked the first goal of the game. So it's always nice to make me really nervous before we kick off. But look, it was a gross first half. It was a very gross first quarter. But at the end of the quarter, we were up by 3 points, which wasn't overly convincing. Xerri with the first goal. And then it was a lot of Bombers inside 50s. The Bombers really did dominate the inside 50s for the day. I'll see if I can get the stat up here really quickly. And this is one thing that we're going to maybe go into a little bit more here is I'm worried about the inside 50s we're conceding. We conceded a lot against the Eagles, and then we conceded a lot tonight against the Bombers. I'm just having a look here if we've got the stats, but inside 50s, 52 to 49. So it was close, but it's a lot of inside 50s to concede to such a poor team. The one thing that I was a bit nervous about in that first quarter was how easily the Bombers would win the clearance, because it really did feel like they dominated the clearance, even though overall for the day, we ended up winning clearances, which didn't feel like it at the ground. There's a few different points that didn't feel like it was what it was in the ground. And then the Bombers seemed to be able to transition the ball really, really cleanly off half back. Is that your observation too, John?
At the ground, it definitely felt that way. When I've gone back and watched, I think yet again, the big thing I always say is you go back when you go back and watch, you've always got like sort of a non-emotional take. Like, because when you're at the ground, the atmosphere's there and you're nervous and anxious. When I watched back, particularly that first quarter, we were like, I agree with you. Like it's not as much that they were transitioning as well. I think they were able to lock it in a lot better. The quality of entry was vastly different between the two sides. That was why we won the game, is when we were getting it forward, like we got a lot of Charlie the Gooses over the back, where a play would like get it in the square or mark it, within that 20-meter arc and have shots from there. A lot of the Essendon shots were, 45, 50 meters out,
pushing
on
them
very
wide
harsh
too.
angles.
Yeah.
So we defended the corridor. Like, it was a scrappy game, but we defended the corridor exceptionally well. We'll talk about matchups, obviously, and we could probably touch on those, I guess, a bit. We've got the big one that I sort of saw is Caddy got a couple of goals for the game, and they were talking about him as the second coming on the replay. Pink beat him pretty comprehensively for the game.
Caddy only got one goal too.
Oh, one goal. Was it? It was a nice goal, though. He got from, yet again, 45 out against the boundary line. That's where you want to be forcing the shots. Pink so comprehensively beat him all game. And we had a bit of a vice versa on the Port Adelaide game I was saying. Perfect matchup for Horn Francis.
True.
And you're like, no. And then you're like, he's a perfect matchup for Katie. And I'm like, no. That's terrible. So we both get one this way.
That's right. We'll see how he blankets Mackay next week, which will be very exciting. And some other things that stood out to me was like, I posted up at halftime about Sheasel and LDU not kicking very straight, and definitely in the ground. We were commenting on it. I didn't think, and Sheasel was going at 100% disposal efficiency to halftime, but at the ground, like it just couldn't have been. Like, I don't know. He was sloppy. Like that's what I saw. There was a lot of bombing the ball long, and there was some missed kicks, and he definitely missed some. So I'm a bit confused about that stat. Maybe I haven't watched the game back though. I slept straight away when I got home. But did you notice that on the game? Like, do you think that's an accurate stat? I'm a bit confused.
Yet again, going back like at the ground, I agree with you. There's a couple of like. It's credit to Essendon's defence or poorness to our transition when we have to bomb it long down the line, because you're sort of hoping a bit more than, the good sides are the ones that are running it through. And a lot of our players ended up in that situation where we're doing the long kick. To his credit, he was like, I watched back again, and he was hitting up the right target, like hitting the right kick. So that's why his efficiency was right. Like, he would be kicking it long down the line for those, and otherwise he was fairly clean with his hands. He actually had a pretty solid game.
So interesting to see how it's different though, isn't it? Like, because of our perception of the ground, we were both commenting on it. Like, she's has been poor, and then you look at the numbers. I'm like, well, I'm just confused because it's so different in the ground. It's crazy.
I would say his disposal wasn't as impactful in the terms of you've got players that will. The big kick that I always love to see, if you can nail it, is that 45-degree kick into the corridor. Yeah. Because that just opens the field. It gets the ball forward. It gets the ball. That's the kick everyone's trying to stop. And Sheasel doesn't take that kick a lot. And he doesn't hit that kick a lot when he does. So it's sort of like that's what you have to be watching out for, to be fair. So and I don't think that's where he's not impacting games as much as he could. You've got other players like Caleb Daniel goes for that kick a lot. Kirch goes for that kick a lot. Kirch's disposals were actually, yet again, he was one that he had a couple of missed kicks in the first, but his overall game was actually quite stellar. Like, his ball movement was a lot better than I sort of expected, which is an interesting watch back.
Yeah, I agree. Like, looking at all the numbers on the train home and everything, it definitely perceives differently than it does at the game.
Definitely.
Because Kirch for us felt like he was having a stinker. But then you look at the numbers, it's like, yeah, and we definitely tightened up in the third. I mean, look, we had the Zane Dersma show, two later in the first, and kicked one in the second. A Tristan Xerri goal, which is going to be an incredibly interesting discussion, which we'll have soon about the incident with him and McGrath. But halftime, we weren't feeling great. It was 44-32. The third quarter was our best quarter of play. That was the most that resembled what we did against Port. We shut them down, and we were able to move the ball cleanly and score. Fourth quarter for me was very concerning. This is where we differed massively, Joel, where, you did feel more comfortable than me, which is a normal reaction because we could be 60 up and I'm still on the edge of my seat. But we defended very, very well in the last quarter until they sort of they snagged a couple. Not until that 19-minute mark did they, I believe, they scored their second goal of the quarter in the 19-minute mark and then piled on 3 very quick ones, which made it a game. And I'm not very happy about how we ran this game out. I think we took our foot off the gas. I think we were poor defensively. We dropped away, even though we defended really well through the third and into the fourth. But then when the floodgate opened for Essendon, they banged on 3 really, really quickly. And yes, in the end, it is consolation goals. We should have won that game by 5 or 6 goals. But I really want to be able to earn some respect by people, and a 12-point margin or whatever it was in the end does not do that against Essendon, who were genuinely pathetic. Like they look like what we did under David Noble, to be honest. So yeah. It's a bit disappointing how we ran out that game, even though, look, a win is a win. But we've got to be able to, we can't let the Bombers go on a little run like that. And that's something that's concerning. But hey, we run out 81 to 69 winners on the day. Let's go through individual lines, Joel. Would you like to start at the defense or in the forward line?
I think we'll start in defense is reasonable. That was probably like a really good line today. I think they were actually quite exceptional as a group. I mean, you go through probably the keys first in Chom, Pink, and I guess who was the other one? Nathan Call. Forgot he was playing actually for a large extent, which I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, but either way, as a unit, I thought they did really well. I think Peter Wright was probably their most effective forward. He kicked 2.
Chom was sort of trying to play off him a little bit too most of the game.
Yeah. Chom didn't take as many intercepts, but I was very happy with his game overall. Pink, I think, beat Caddy pretty convincingly today, and Call was there as well. I can't remember who he really had the matchup on. I think maybe Langford, I guess. And Langford was well held. Archer May, didn't hurt us when he was around. Blackiston actually was probably, as a ruckman, probably mentioned him a tiny bit in this line because he kicked a goal and had another good shot on goal, which he probably should have kicked. So, I think as a unit, I think our defensive, there was no forward of theirs that felt like they really got off. What was your feeling on the game when you were there, and I guess
Yeah, I think the key position players did pretty well. Like, I don't think any of the Essendon forwards were overly threatening. I mean, Peter Wright kicked an incredible one from about 60 out, to be honest. And I can't remember where his other goal came from, but
50 metres out directly in front.
Yeah, so I think the Keys did what they did. I mean, looking through the internet a little bit, I mean, the amount of pelters that McDonald and Core are getting for this game is crazy to me. I mean, I didn't really think Core did anything wrong. And there's a few players on this list that I want to talk. Another one in the midfield I want to talk about, but I'm a bit confused. I think. And I know the internet is not an accurate representation of what all North fans are thinking. If we went up to people at the game and asked how Core went, I don't think anyone would say bad but I think people have got it in their head that Core is bad, so he played bad. But we didn't see him for the game. We didn't really see Langford for the game. And I don't remember ever sitting there watching going, Core is doing something wrong. So I'm a bit confused about that. Did you notice anything with him or McDonald, to be honest, on the replay? Because I thought McDonald was really, really good. He put his body on the line. He didn't feel like he got beaten very much at all. 18 disposals, 8 marks, a couple of tackles. I thought he was really good for the game. I don't know how many. He only had 1 intercept, but I'll check some rebound 50s here for him. Most of the entire game, 7 rebound 50s for Luke McDonald. So what do you think the perception is on some of these players?
I think people just like to blame individuals in different situations. And to be fair, Almac and Core, defense wasn't our problem today. I mean, kicking it out and the transition from there, honestly, Like, I thought they
Yes.
did fairly well. They kicked it up the line to the contest. There was one or two errant kicks from the defenders, but as a unit, they were actually really fantastic. I mean, Parker, which we'll touch on as well, was just, I think he had a really stellar game. He led from the front, but Almac, you never questioned him putting his body on the line. They worked well together. There was only one sort of nearly silly goal, which we gave up at the start in a really bad, or two actually, I think in the start, which were both from midfielders, unfortunately. Like there was the Dill Stevens one where he was lucky that Parker's absolute desperate effort on the line, which was brilliant.
Yeah.
Was able to stop it. And the other one was Colby coming out of defense, just hit up I think
Just
it was probably
15-meter kick.
Yeah, I know, killed me that one. But he had a very good game overall, so I retract my disappointment earlier. But like he like outside of that, he was very solid. But like that was a terrible kick, and you can't miss those ones, to be fair, as a AFL football. So I think like the defensive unit was really solid. I mean, they had good deep entries, and like they didn't take any marks inside. They took barely any marks deep in the corridor or close to the goals. We defended really well on transition in defense, and the one-on-one, there was no egregious losses in the one-on-one. I don't think that I can like memorize, except for maybe Archer May took a nice mark, but you know, people are going to take marks in the game. You're not going to stop everything. So no, it's like core and the LMAC hate is just that at this point. It's not based in reality. Like, I mean, if, you know, whoever LMAC started next to Kako, if Kako gets off and kicks like 3 or 4 goals or fair 2 or 3 goals. Yeah, fair criticism. He kicked 1 goal from outside 50. Yeah. Like, and it was on a hit up forward lead where
they put him in the midfield because he wasn't impacting in the forward line too.
Yeah, exactly. So like, you know, that's really unfounded. And he was really well held. And, you know, if it was Langford, I think was the matchup for call. Langford had like 2 shots on goal and, you know, they were all wide and he had to go around the body on them. So like, you know, I think it's really unfounded. You need to be reasonable when you're watching.
Points for the game.
Yeah, there was a couple and they were really wide. None of them were like easy shots. They were like around
in the pocket.
So like in the pockets, yeah. So like we've defended exceptionally well as a unit. Like, you know, one of our better defensive performances, we kept them to 69 points. And realistically, if we run the game out, I mean, you could probably touch on, I guess, coming back from Perth and the really hot day, obviously, and it was a late game and 6-day turnaround. So we were running out of tickets, I think, and we put the queue in the rack very clearly. So realistically, we kept them under, like, up until then, we'd kept them below 50 points for the game pretty much until the last 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah, no, it's true. Look, let's talk about the players who were trying to run this off halfback for us. So, you know, you've got Daniel trying to run it out, Stevens pushing back there. Simpkin's doing a lot more work around halfback, but I guess maybe we'll talk about Simpkin more with the midfielders. What were we doing wrong not being able to exit this ball and not being able to run this out? I mean, we resorted to long kicking down the line a bit more. It seemed to pay off a bit more than it did the week before because the Bombers are so bad. How did you see your Caleb Daniels and your Blamires and the smaller guys trying to run this ball out of our back 50?
I think, like, it's a bit of a varying success. Like, what we do is we get it to that probably 50-metre line and defensively, if we can take a mark there, we either move the ball really quickly and looked real, like, honestly, some of our chains moving the ball actually is starting to look really, really elite, and we're doing it more than once a game. If we can't get that overlap or that speed, and you saw this against West Coast for the second and third, we resort to a long kick, which isn't the worst option if you go against the boundary line, hopefully create a stoppage and go from there. So, like, Blamires, I think, watching back as well, like, I was a bit hard on him when I watched the game, but he actually had a very exceptional game, some really good defensive plays. I think he's unlikely to get dropped next week. Caleb Daniel, actually, I think, like, watching the game, spent a lot of time up that forward half. Kirch was pretty good at moving the ball through. It's just, the question mark is can we get that 45-degree kick in and start to move it well? If we get that, we really opened up Essendon at stages, and we looked really good when we did. But yeah, it was
just turnovers and skill errors, though, wasn't it? Like,
yeah,
you know, but this is why we get these veterans in, and I want to touch on Daniel and especially Park. I mean, Daniel's putting together a very good season so far, very solid season so far for Caleb Daniel. I mean, another player that people have just decided is awful. You know, I've been a big defender of him, and I understand that people's opinions can differ, and that's completely fine. But, you know, if you're not liking what Caleb Daniel is offering this season, I think it is just hate at this point. I mean, I think he's been really, really solid. Probably his quietest game this year. I mean, 23 touches still 82% disposal efficiency, and his freeze rebound 50. He's had 4 for the game, which wasn't too bad. So he's putting together a nice, tidy season, and you can see he's a better player with a more functional defense or a slightly more solid defense behind him. But Luke Parker, this halfback role is just opened him up. I mean, 33 touches, 90% disposal efficiency, 13 marks for the game. It's just crazy stuff. Like sign him for 10 years as far as I'm concerned, mate. I love what he's doing. I'm sorry I'm looking down. I'm just trying to look at some more numbers for him here. But his ability, and this is something else we watched at the ground, was his ability to hit that 45 degree, like across the, getting us out of danger, hitting that switch kick or finding someone in the middle for him. The amount of times he was composed in those scenarios to get us the ball off halfback away from danger compared to maybe what Dill Stevens could dish up, or, Colby maybe more first half, had a couple of errors, even though I agree with you, his game overall was better than maybe we perceived on the day because we were stressed and riddled with emotion. But Luke, this guy, man, he's having a fantastic season.
Yeah.
I love Luke Parker. Do you also love Luke Parker?
Oh, yeah. And it's even like the effort plays where he's, just tackling for his life. Like he sets such a high standard. We've seen, some of the other guys start to really hit it. I mean, like we'll touch on him soon, obviously, but you can see the fingerprints now of, I reckon, Parker onto a Finn O'Sullivan at the moment, just with some of the ways that he plays and moves. But Parker, the amount of times you just make that long transition kick and just hit that right target and just open the field when others were starting to get fumbly. I mean, he's been there. He's won multiple premierships. You can tell why. He's just exactly the kind of player we need in this side. So I'm so happy to have him there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, just to blanket this defensive chat as well, especially for these smaller guys before we move on to the midfield, I do just want to say, we need to get so much better at delivering this ball out of the back 50. As much as when we did pull it off, it worked very, very well. And you can see our game plan. I think we can safely say now we've improved from last year. 3 games in, you can see the game style coming together. You can see we're trying to move it off halfback a lot more cleanly, win the ball from stoppage, get that ball forward into our dangerous forward line. But we're definitely better than we were last year. And even in a game like this, which was scrappy, we were still able to have our moments where we still ran the ball out and looked like we did against Port. But, we can't forget about we were playing the Bombers and we need to be able to move this ball more cleanly. And it literally was like putting the handball behind somebody, slightly missing the kick, putting us under pressure. And they're the things to tighten up. But it was a real contrast, a real Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing for us in this game, because when it worked, geez, we tore the Bombers apart. And if we could have had even one more quarter like the third, we would have absolutely destroyed them this game. But our skill errors are still there. And against the Bombers, when you've got more time with the ball, we should have capitalized a little bit more. So when we come up against better teams that are going to pressure us more, I am still a little bit worried. So look, let's go on to the midfield. There's someone I want to start with, and then we're going to get into a slightly more positives. It's not negative from my angle, but another person I'm going to put in this debate we've sort of had with McDonald and Core. Simpkin was probably the player from the fans on the internet that was the most hated for this game. Now, I'm very confused about this because I don't think he really did anything wrong in this game. Before we go into numbers and what he did, is this just a result of what happened in the off season, or are people wanting him to do more and he's not? What is going on with people's hate for Jai Simpkin? Every single game this season, to be honest, I've seen his name thrown up more often than not.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very fair point that you make. He's when you're a winger, specifically, you work really hard and you don't get the ball anywhere near as much. It's the way that it tends to work, especially if you're on the weak wing. And I think he was often playing the opposite wing, and Dill was the one probably on the ball side where it came a bit more. Jai didn't do anything really wrong today. His defensive impact was actually quite there. He works really hard. He's a great teammate. He creates space a lot of the time, and I think it's fair and fair. Today, he didn't there wasn't anything that I'm looking at today with his disposal or his thing that was particularly poor or that sloppy. I think he doesn't have much of a left foot in one point, I think was one of them. But he got the ball in the right area and, gave the shot. I think it was to Bull at the time. But no, I think, I agree. I think it's from what's happened in the off season. People's perception of him has slightly changed and slightly aggrieved by it. But like today, like he was, fairly good with what he had. He didn't get a huge amount of it, but like you're not going to always get a huge amount of it. Like you can't effort your way out of it on the wing. All you can do on the wing that is good effort is if he's getting back defensively, which, I think as a unit, our team today was really good defensively. Like Essendon wasn't scoring a lot until that last quarter. They scored more probably in the last quarter than they scored for the game, I think, to be fair.
Really.
And you can understand why, I guess, if you come back from Perth and that, like, we want to run our games better than that, definitely, but we're still learning a lot and still, a young side.
Yeah, I mean, Simpkin, 22 touches, 81% disposal efficiency, which, I didn't at the ground, I just didn't feel like he did much wrong at all. I mean, he had 3 intercepts for the game as well. It's the interesting stat, and it's always about his kicking, right? How many turnovers do you think Jai Simpkin had for the game?
I can't remember any particularly egregious ones. So I might say 2 for the game, 3 for the game.
He had 2 for the game. And then when you look at some players around him, and this is not trying to point out these players in particular, but you look at Tom Powell, had a similar game, 23 touches. He had 6 turnovers for the game. And I'm not hearing any Tom Powell. And look, I know there's this thing about Tom Powell and me. Just erase that from your memory for a second because I'm being, you know what I mean? But I'm going to talk about Dill Stevens in this as well. Dill Stevens had 6 turnovers for the game as well on 23 touches like Powell. And even go let's have a look at a Caleb Daniel. He had 2 as well, so that actually wasn't too bad. But my point here is I'm seeing Simpkin's name always getting thrown out. He can't kick. He's awful. This. But even my guy Dylan Stevens didn't have a good game at all. I mean, 23 touches, 6 turnovers. Tom Powell had a bad game. He did no impact in that game. 23 touches, 60% for Tom Powell in that game by disposal efficiency, and 6 turnovers. Simpkin's game was miles better than Powell's. And once again, it's not a Tom Powell thing. Dylan Stevens was the same, right? So I just don't understand why Simpkin is getting pointed out in this way when these other guys don't.
Yeah, it's just what's happened in the off season's caused people to be a bit more unhappy with him. He's he did nothing. Like I said, his game wasn't bad. He didn't do anything he wasn't one of our best, but he was not one of our worst. I think he was middle of the pack player for us today, which is fine. I mean, wingers, you don't expect them necessarily to have those, you can have stars on the wing, but he's not a Goulden. He's never going to be a Goulden. His ability to move the ball and get back defensively, his pressure and effort was actually really good. He's one of our first ones back usually. He's jigs in hard. It's really unfounded I guess they're discontent with him. I think it's just really unfounded. I think he's been so good at what he does. You got to just watch what he does do well and let him do that, I think, without getting to as a game like today, if you don't like a player, I'll always say this, if you've got when you're watching a game, when you've got a preconceived notion of a player and you watch the game, you will always find them doing the wrong thing.
100%.
It doesn't matter how good or bad they've actually been. That's why, at the ground, I have my perceptions, and then I'll go back and I'll specify and to try to watch individual players and individual things and see, was it true what I was watching, or is it just me?
And that's the interesting thing about Shees in this game too, because coming out of that ground, I didn't think Shees and Colby would. And once again, I love Cole McKercher, but I didn't perceive him to have a great game at the ground, because I guess you're there watching that one turnover when the crowd just loses it, and you can see the other options down the field that he had to go to, where on the broadcast you maybe don't see all the other options he could have gone with. Same with Shees and all these sort of players. So you're 100% spot on. If you've got a preconceived notion of a player, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that's okay. But, once again, Simpkin, I think was fine on the day, and Stevens Powell as another example of players that had touches, playing similar-ish role, midfield roles, even though they are different, had quite poor games, but I don't hear, the same's uproar for them. So just try and be as objective as you can, guys. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but hey, look, Finn O'Sullivan's a player, Joel. Finn O'Sullivan is that's a Rising Star nomination incoming for Finn O'Sullivan, surely. Even the AFL's posting about it, has to be Rising Star nom.
Yeah. Oh, he can't get
he can't get one, can he? Yeah.
God. Played too many games. But I told you last year, the guy had genuinely the quietest good year I've seen. He consistently was making the right decisions. he is just so composed for a player his age. He was doing everything absolutely right last year, and he's a first-year player. This could be that breakout of an absolute superstar. Like he kept Zach Merritt to, I think it was 9 disposals in the end, but like
10 touches.
10 touches, but like that was, and the only goal he kicked wasn't actually on him, which is a funny thing of note. And when he's got the ball, he just makes the right decision. Those 45-degree kicks that I talk about, those little chip kicks, he is just, and he's like, he is just such a great footy brain. Like there's like plays that I was watching on the replay when you can actually stop it and see the motion of it, where even when he doesn't take possession, like he'll like do something that Bontempelli does exceptionally well, which is when the ball's on the ground, he scoops it to like advantage and hits it to the advantage side and creates the space. He's tackling like that tackle on Zach Merritt, where he beautifully tackled him, and I think Paul Merritt landed right on the beak on that one. But he got the turnover. Like he is just, this guy he could be the best out of all of those 5 guys that we got, and he is just got superstar written all over him. He is brilliant.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm on this train now where I think O'Sullivan is, and I've always loved him, but the two-way ability of this guy is something that no other midfielder really has for us. He's got star written all over him. I think he can be our best midfielder. Absolutely. To get, was it 24 touches, I think, 87% disposal efficiency, 11 contested possessions as well, 8 marks for the game. I mean, it's crazy stuff. And to keep Merritt as well while you're doing that game alone is a great game for a second-year player. To keep Merritt to 10 touches, who's their best player by an absolute mile.
And has torched us multiple times, Zach Merritt. Like, I think last time we played it, he had like 25 disposals to half-time or something.
Yeah. I mean, shout out Finn O'Sullivan. Because I remember when we saw him for the first time last year, he's just so much bigger than what I thought he would be. I mean, I don't know, you'd know more about this than me, but I don't feel like there was much talk about him defensively, coming out of the draft as well. And to be the size he is and be able to defend the way he does while being so elite going forward as well. Yeah, we've got a special player here, mate. And
absolutely.
Thank God we took him and didn't listen to my advice as well. Why are we taking a key position player? But hey, I'm not upset.
Richmond could have had both of them. Could have had the Layla and Finn O'Sullivan if they had have wanted and had have done a proper trade for him. But
Richmond's got more fans than us, mate, so they can never do any wrong. Yeah. Don't forget that.
I mean, I'm sure they're very happy with Smiley and Houghton over Finn O'Sullivan. Like Finn, like that. Like he is just such God. I can't speak high enough of how good that game was and how. Like, he doesn't do wrong things often. Like, you rarely see that kid make a mistake.
You're going to have to go a little lie down after this, Joe. You're getting a bit worked up there, mate.
I've told you all preseason. I've told you all, last year, every single game, I'm like, this kid is just silently having a great year.
Oh, yeah.
When he's, like, if he gets up to a 25 disposal a game, if he gets 25 disposals regularly, we're going to win a lot of footy with him. Like, he's just going to be a really, really good player.
We had the return of George Wardlaw, and let's chat about LDU a little bit as well. Let's go to George though. I mean, how did you see Wardlaw's return? What was his stat? Like 16 touches, 68% disposal efficiency, which isn't great, but he had some impactful plays in this one. How many clearances? He had 12 clearances, which is a very very good effort for 16 odd touches. So. I liked what I saw from Wardlaw. You could see there's a couple of times he wasn't sharp, but he did a nice play where he's picked the ball up and he spun, away from danger a little bit and got the hands out and we transitioned the ball forward. And he's always sticking his head over everything. I mean, how many tackles did Wardlaw have here? I don't feel like he had heaps. Only 2 for the game. But how did you see his return?
Yeah, no, I think it was a very successful return for him. Like time on ground, I don't imagine was huge. Probably around that 60% mark, I guess at most. When he's around the ball, everyone has to look. Like he's very eye-catching as a supporter. But then, like, if you're on the field with him absolutely bolting through and sprinting through these packs, you're going to be worried. So, like, I think he adds a layer to our midfield that the others don't. His ability just to be an absolute pig in that pressure area where the ball's coming in, he just finds the ball and will have like 3 or 4 goes at it. The opposition is really going to be concerned about where he is. I think great return for him. It's his first game back, and I'm very happy with his, just getting through the game's also a good thing for him at the moment. So let's hope that he continues to do that. But I was very happy with his effort. LDU, when we talk about him now, I guess his ability to, I think he's the classiest player. Oh, yeah. And like comparing him and Shees would probably be one that I'd fairly do, which is Shees a few times when he gets the ball, just chucks it on the boot to get it forward. LDU's the kind of player that will now grab it, spin, find a little bit of space and try to get that hand pass out and try to get that open look to create a better disposal forward. So I think that's what LDU, you can see, like he had a good game today without being exceptional, I thought, today, but he had a very good game still. But you could tell when he had it how much classier he was and how much more composed he was in that midfield when he got it. So you just want to see him get more of it and get a bit more because he creates the space for himself. How did you view his game?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I mean, 31 possessions on the game, 77% disposal efficiency. He's always in for CBAs. Clearances for the game, he had 4 to George's 7, so that's such an interesting number there. But yeah, he was good without being great. But you can see he always have these moments in games where you're like, God, he could be the best player on this field. And it's just consistency for him, but consistency through 4 quarters as well, not just over a season. So I liked it. I mean, do you think going forward, we haven't seen much FOS and Wardlaw together in the midfield because haven't been playing together overly that much. Do you think LDU, FOS, Wardlaw is our best midfield 3 going forward? And if it is, because my gut tells me it might be, where do you think the best place for Harry Sheezel is? Because there was a bit of discussion about Sheezel's role through the week after the 40 touch game and it not being a very good 40 touch game. I agree that I don't think he's had that impact in the middle quite as much. Do you see a different role where he could play off a forward flank and come into the middle and get Wardlaw, LDU, FOS in the guts? Because that feels like the best 3 to me.
I tend to agree with you. I tend to think that's the best mix is those 3, or even Kirch, to be honest, with 2 of those other guys. She's still going to get his centre bounces, I think. He came into the league as a forward. Like, he's a forward naturally. He's got a very good leap, and he did some really good things this game as well, like a couple of intercept marks as well. I think he probably took 2. That's
something he's been better at. Sorry to interrupt really quickly, but just so I don't forget, he's done that every game this season though. His work rate to get back and intercept when there's like a one-on-one and he sort of drifts across has been very, very good this year. And that's something I don't think many people have talked about.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think his disposal has been a bit down this year from what he is capable of with his class. That being said, he's probably the most pressured player on the field 90% of the time well. I agree with you there that 3 best. I mean, I'd play him off the half forward flank. I said this last year where I think even though he's getting the big disposals in the middle, the more impactful ones. So, a George gets a lot less and his disposal efficiency is probably worse, to be honest, a lot of time. He does hit up the kicks occasionally, but his ability to burst from the contest is what makes his game his best. If he can get consistency in his footy and tidy up the kicking a little bit, it'll be really high level. Foss's big body and ability to defend. Kirch, I think the pace off the Kirch, the pace out of the middle is just a really interesting one to watch. So, She's, yet again, he had a very, very good game. He was one of our best, so I'm not going to say he's not a midfielder again at the moment. But he can play on too many spots, and I think he was doing a lot of the right things. It's just I prefer him to have that half a second extra to try to hit up kicks opposed to the dump kicks, which he's fallen a bit of victim to being in the North midfield for so long and under pressure immediately. So, but that'll come with experience. I'm happy with that, but the midfield mix is going to be a tricky one to match, and I don't know how we deal with it, but that's a good problem to have.
But it's now all the players that are going to go through there we like in the midfield. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Simpkin doesn't go through there much. Powell doesn't go through there much anymore. And even Park had a couple of CBAs, I think, for the game, but very, very minimal. Those aren't players that I want going through that midfield anymore. It is now that FOS and McKercher have gone through that rotation, we look more dangerous from the midfield, even though I think we should have done better with the talented players that we had in. The ruck rule I think it's going to be very, very hit and miss this year with this ruck rule because, Xerri got dominated in hit-outs again, even though we dominated clearances again. It was a very similar midfield battle than what it was with Port. We just didn't rove off Blackiston's taps or cause as much stoppage to get Xerri back in the game like we did in round 1. So You know, it was a very similar looking ruck battle, although we didn't capitalize the way we did against Port. Let's go to the biggest talking point of this game with Big X, Joel, because an incident that McGrath sort of, it almost looked like Xerri sort of head-butted into him a little bit, but it was a weird-looking incident, okay? I'm always going to back my boy Big X, but,
he
you know,
McGrath's... McGrath, there's no...
Yeah, like McGrath sort of went to run through him, but X almost, like, ducked down a little bit. He's hit him high, you know, X didn't like it, and you know... He was down for a while, and that man doesn't stay down, right? No. So there must have been something there. He must have maybe got him in the right way. Anyway, it's ended up, the Bombers have transitioned the ball down into their forward line, and we're thinking, wow, this is not good. X is still hanging around in the goal square at our end. We've actually transitioned the ball all the way back up, found X in the goal square. He's kicked a goal and then went straight to McGrath. Gone to say that I've got blood on my nose. You did this, you know, look at this, you know, you hit me high. And then is perceived to have moved his hand towards McGrath and wiped blood on his face. Now
he wiped blood on his face. It was a terrible.
I'm not saying he did it. I'm not saying he did it.
It's what it was. It's
interesting though, because was there blood on his hand when he wiped? I think this is
it's a bad look.
I don't disagree with you, Joel, but I'm trying to dissect this about what the MRO is going to think and what is going to happen.
2 weeks. It'll be 2 weeks.
I think it's going to be a suspension, which is really poor from him right before Good Friday, because now Coleman Jones is probably going to be our number one ruck, and that's all down to Tristan Xerri's.
Was woeful.
He was woeful, yes.
He was woeful today.
Yes, we'll talk about Coleman Jones after we hit this Xerri thing up. Now, from screenshots and from footage of what I've seen, it doesn't appear to be any blood on his hand that gets wiped onto McGrath. I don't know if that's your perception too, but I've watched it back a few times this morning, and it doesn't look like there's any blood there, which I think does do something for the case. I don't think he went, I'm going to get blood on my hand and wipe it on his face. That's not my perception of it.
My perception of it is because he's kicked the goal. He's gone to the guy to, you know, give him a bit of power to. And then Andy McGrath's come over and said, mate, you stayed down. It was a bit soft. And then he's gone, what do you mean it was soft? I'm bleeding. It's my gut feel of what he's actually done. And then he's gone to wipe blood on his face, which is just there's a lot of angry pills at North at the moment, which I don't mind. There's a line that you walk. And I think, obviously during the week, him and Chom, getting a bit mongrel, and X plays angry, I think, as well. And he plays a bit better when he plays angry. I think he had some really good moments in the game, but I think he was okay for the game without being our best on anywhere near our best again. But yeah, I think he's in trouble. Like I think I was listening to on the broadcast, they were talking about an incident with Ling or Buckley, and Buckley got a week, I think it was, for wiping blood on his opposition.
This day and age, though, that's
probably
it's going to be a different thing.
I reckon it'll be 2 weeks. It's my gut feel now.
Yeah, I do agree.
Yeah, so it's a bit dumb, and we've got no real great depth in that. I mean, CCJ came in, and CCJ was pretty poor. Like, I've watched it back, and yet again, as I said, always like to watch back and see how they go, and it was worse on the watch back, to be honest. I think he looks a bit slow, looks a bit lost, but he's going to be our number one ruck for 2 weeks now, against Brisbane and against Carlton next week. So Carlton's probably less likely to hurt us with it, but
that's the winnable game, though, isn't it? So it probably will hurt us more, because that's the winnable one. I mean, it is frustrating. Like I said, and people can disagree or agree with me on this. I don't think he intentionally went to get. Listen to what I'm saying before you start.
I'm listening.
I know he did the action. Okay, what I'm saying is, I don't think he went in his head, I'm going to put blood on my hand and I'm going to wipe it on his face. I don't believe he went to do that. I believe he went, look, blood. Oh, you hit me here, and he went to sort of push his face or anything like that. I don't think he intentionally got blood on his hand and went to wipe the blood on his face. Now,
hopefully that's what the MRO thinks as well.
If he did do that, by the way, just from what I'm looking at, I just don't think surely he would intentionally try and if he saw blood on his hand, I can't imagine he's wiping blood on his face. Now, if he did do that, you probably should be suspended for more than 2 weeks, to be honest. So I'm not sitting here trying to defend Xerri and make up things that didn't happen, right? I know that he wiped his nose. Oh, you hit me here, and put his hand on his face. But I just find it so hard to believe that if he knew there was blood in his hand, because it didn't look like that blood was on McGrath's face, right? The umpire didn't send him off with the blood rule or anything like that as well.
Yeah,
so, and I think that does matter in what I'm saying. I'm not trying to defend him and say he shouldn't get suspended or, his intent was correct. But I find it hard to believe a player would notice blood in his hand and then wipe it on somebody's face. And then if that did happen, the umpire needs to, send Xerri off with the blood rule, but surely you can be reported for something like that, or surely something had to happen there. Now, it's not excusing the action. It's not excusing touching your nose and then touching the guy's face, right? And I do think he gets suspended, and it's stupid, it's idiotic, and he's probably going to cost us Good Friday, to be honest, because I think if we're going to get beaten out of the middle without his tackling ability in there, if we lose next week, I think it's on Xerri, to be honest with you.
CCJ legacy game coming up.
Well, yeah, I highly doubt that, mate. But look, that's just my 2 cents on it. Maybe I'm trying to defend Xerri a little bit too much, but I think there is something, when I'm looking at it from what the MRO is going to look at, there's no blood on McGrath's face. Doesn't excuse the action. Fair. I'm going to make that incredibly clear. Doesn't excuse what he did, and he should be suspended, I think. But he hasn't wiped blood and gone, there's blood on my hand, I'm going to wipe this on this guy's face. But there is that action that he's touched his face after touching his nose where he felt like there was blood, right? So it's interesting because he's gone to do that action, but there was no blood there and he didn't get sent off with blood rule. So it's just confusing what is going to happen with this. But yeah, I think Xerri, look, is this going to be an overreaction right now? But he may have just cost us the Good Friday game, to be honest.
Yeah. Definitely an overreaction. But that being said,
my gut tells me that, mate. I mean, look, we're sitting here talking about Coleman Jones, how bad he is, and
I know
but he's going to ruck, mate. Taylor Goad's not going to be there, So what else have we got? Can we bring Goldie back for a game?
Oh gosh, I'd take Goldie at the moment for that. I mean, I will give you a fair point here. Is that I didn't see any blood on it. Like, I don't think there was any blood there. So maybe it's just the thought pattern. Like, it just felt like, it's a grubby look, but it's not like necessarily that. I thought at the time maybe fine. Then I heard that Bucks, but there wasn't anywhere near the blood level that there was no blood on McGrath's face and there was no blood on his hand. So that's a fair point, and I'm curious. I'm hoping they take that into account. So X might, if there's no blood, you can't really give him a week, can you? Because people do that kind of touch all the time.
It's confusing though, and I just want to make my point really clear here because I don't want to come across like I'm saying he didn't wipe, he touched his nose and wipe his face. Like, he absolutely did.
He definitely did that.
And I'm not sitting here saying, he didn't wipe blood on his, but he didn't wipe blood on his face because there wasn't blood. Now the action was correct. Like, he did, wipe his nose and say, you hit me here. But I hope everyone understands what I'm trying to say here. Like,
no, he didn't me around a little bit.
He didn't put blood on his hand and go, I'm going to wipe this blood on his face. He touched his nose to say, you hit me here, you hit me here. He was probably bleeding a little bit when he was down in the goal square for 3 minutes, while the ball went up the other end. The trainer came out, probably cleaned anything off him they could, and there was no more blood. So the action was gross, right? I don't like the look of that action at all, and that's why I think he should be suspended. But did he wipe blood on his face? He didn't. So it's really, really interesting to see how the MRO will take that.
Yeah.
So, but in my opinion, if someone did that to a player of mine, I think it's a suspension, mate. How long, I don't know, but I think he gets suspended, and I think that'll be correct. But he didn't.
Without the blood, you could argue a fine, to be honest, I think. Like, if there's no blood and there's no...
Yeah, because they're going to argue he didn't put blood on his hand and wipe it on his face,
right?
Because
there's no blood on his hand or on his face.
There's no blood on his hand or on his face. So that's what I'm saying. The action doesn't look good at all. And if there's a suspension, that's where it comes from. But once again, like I said at the start, I don't think he went, I'm going to put blood on my hand, I'm going to wipe it on that guy's face.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents. Put your 2 cents down below in the comments because... Yeah, it's going to be so interesting over the next couple of days to see what this happens. But I don't think you can't suspend him after that. I know the AFL is so they're so strict on I agree with you. Look, we're on the opposite sides of it now.
I know. How's this happened?
How's this happened? But this is the difficult thing. It's like the intent.
If there's no blood. There's no.
That
contact happens every game,
gross, right? The action is gross, but
that contact happens every game.
wasn't gross. I mean, guys are hitting their heads together and fall on top of each other and all that sort of stuff. But it depends how you look at it. I agree. The action looks bad. If he gets a week, the AFL, it's probably in their right to do that, to be honest, because, they probably want to make a stand. But they've been a little bit weaker on these moments. I know it's a very different incident, but moments that we've thought are going to be suspensions, even like Chom's last week, didn't end up being. So it's interesting to see what will happen from this. We're going to move on because otherwise we're going to talk about this forever. But like, did he wipe blood in his face? No, but the action looks bad, and I don't know what you do with that because. But yeah,
civilized discussion in the comments.
Civilized, yeah, I'm sure the comments are always so civilized, mate. So yeah, look, give us your 2 cents down below. I don't know. I think it's probably at least a week, but there wasn't blood there. So, but
if there's no blood, it can't be a week. To be fair. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the forward line. Well, we've sort of said everything about CCJ that we need, mate.
Just terrible.
He just wasn't very good. He does look slow. He's bad, but he's going to play next week, unfortunately, because of this. So, Xerri's got to take a bit of ownership there, especially he's in the leadership group. Right? Yeah.
I don't mind him playing on the line though, but
I don't as well. But that's different. Chom last week is like a bit of biff. It's on the line. It is what it is, and it was rightly excused. But I don't know. As much as I said he didn't wipe blood in his face earlier, I've consistently said through this last 10 minutes we've been talking about this that the action is poor and it looks awful. And I think he probably deserves it. And if he gets a suspension, we can't sit there and go, oh, but he didn't. Too bad. Yeah. That's what we've got to cop because it was a bad look, even though there wasn't the blood in his face, which is so polarizing. So I don't want to talk about CCJ.
Forwards.
We're just going to have to move on to next week with CCJ as a ruckman. Zane Dersma show. Zane Dersma, a very Zane Dersma game. I think it was about 8 touches, but kicked 3 goals.
And he set up a couple as well.
Yeah, the pickup as well on half forward and the delivery to. Who was it? Was it Curtis? I think.
Yeah, it was Curtis.
Space.
I think. And then just like he's starting to the last couple of weeks. Like the first week, I thought he was not hugely existent, but he did some okay things. Last week, the first quarter is some of the best footy I've seen him play, and then he obviously disappeared for the rest of the game. This game, like you could see why he's taken as high as he can. You're starting to see that more regularly now. Like really nice mark. His ability to be really, really clean with the ball is really high level. And when we're at a point where we're watching him and our unhappiness with him is that he doesn't get enough of the ball, like I think the effort's there now. If our concern is he doesn't get enough of the ball, that's probably a good thing because we want the ball in his hands. We want him using the ball. We want him around there. And he's, the first goal, like he played to the whistle. That Essendon guy, I'd be so dirty on Durham. It was in the goal square.
Yeah,
hands
so
up,
silly,
like where's the free kick? And he's letting the ball go past it.
Dribble through,
which he could have made a plan, but it was
that
a
was
heads up
first
play.
Goal of the game, right?
Second ball got first,
goal?
I think.
Oh yes, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he got the third goal with us as well when he's taken a nice mark. He was the only one who went for it, went up and then stopped it from just outside 50. And then I think he got another one on the lead and just some really clean plays. He doesn't touch it enough, but you're really starting to see some, like, I would be giving him a good run of games at the moment. Like, he's playing well enough to keep his spot. By comparison, I guess we'll touch on the other forwards in that space. Bull, I think, had a really, really poor game.
There was chat about him not playing in this game really quickly. We just mentioned before that. Like, apparently...
It felt underdone.
Yeah. He didn't look sharp. He's tackling and chasing ability wasn't there on the night as well. Like, look, kicked our first goal, looked hyped, and talking to Essendon fans going into this game, he was the player that they were worried about. Yeah. But I also think him and Curtis probably did a good role of like taking defenders away. There was a little bit more space. Yeah. When we took kicking it to Larky and Trembath and stuff like that, there wasn't quite as much congestion around them. We did a better job entering the ball into the 50. But I agree with what you're saying. Like, were they more decoys and dummies? Maybe not intentionally, but they're still going to draw the player. So maybe that did free up everybody.
Yeah, no, like Bull for me, had a down game, but it's hard to know what, obviously, with structures and that. I think our structures were fairly good overall. And I just thought he made a couple of bad decisions. That's Bull. Curtis, I really like, and we're a bit divided on this usually in the game. He created 2 goals and kicked 1 from the replay that I saw to the 3/4 time, but Yeah, I quite liked his game. I thought he was fairly good without being his best. Like, he wasn't his best, but he was, I think, fairly good in the end. Larky, just stellar. Like, another great performance. Like, he's not getting a huge amount, but how many goals did he kick in the end? 2, I think it was, or
2-1, I believe.
2-1. He should have kicked 3 as well. That one that he missed was like that. How are you reading and rating Dove at the moment?
I think you need to give him a run of games as well at the level. I know a lot of people are talking about Banch through the twos and stuff like that, but I don't know. Dove is the future, and Dove is got sky high talent compared to a Banch. And I know I'm not the highest on Zach Banch, and he kicked 3 goals in the VFL practice game. I don't actually know what he did.
Last week he got it. It was this week he's a late withdrawal because
that's right.
They carried him over because of that.
Yeah. I think you just need to give him a run. I mean, he's kicked a couple of goals. He's just got to get in the game a little bit more, but it's learning where you've got to be when the ball comes in and the ball hits the ground. I think he was doing really well at that against Port. Even though he didn't maybe work as well as it should, he was still running around packs and trying to hit the pack at pace. I think you've just got to give him a run, get his confidence up. When he should have kicked a couple of goals this game.
Yeah, he missed another one that he should have
hit the post on one of them. So if he comes out of the game with 2 goals, even though, I mean, look, how many touches? You got 7 touches for the game. He should have kicked 2, similar to a Dersma where he had 5 touches, kicked 3. So it's not that far away, even though Dersma's game was much better. Like, I'm not trying to say they were at a similar level, but, a guy's playing his 3rd game who's that small, should have kicked 2 on 7 touches. I think you just got to stick with him.
It's a good return.
To be honest. I think you got to stick with him and keep playing him. I don't agree with we're learning his trade in the twos at this stage. I think you give him the first 6 weeks with a slightly easier run. And then if he goes up to the Giants in round 7 and maybe doesn't perform, then maybe you can consider it when there's someone in the twos needs to be having 2 or 3 games to take somebody's spot. I think, of good, consistent performances. So I would stick with him for now. I don't really have a massive problem with him. He's 3 games in, so I don't know what people are expecting from him. And small forwards, look at Kako. Kako's barely done anything in a year and a bit, to be honest. And you can see he's a talented player. Like, Kako is going to be a good AFL player. He's there. He's quick. He's good by foot. But look how much time these sort of players take. And Kako's been playing the whole time. We're not, if we were going for finals, mate, or something like that, well, maybe we still are. Who knows? We're 2-1. But, then maybe you can consider, but like, we're a club with a bunch of young players who you need to get games into. And I think you keep the Dove in. He's kicking goals, and we're 2-1, mate. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dove's going to be one that's going to really benefit from a good off season. The reason I say that specifically is I think his engine's not as exactly where it should be. I think he does well, but like just a little bit off where it should be. And his tackling, he's a bit too easy to break in a tackle.
He's so small though. Like,
it's not the size. Like, you get small players that tackle really hard. Rioli's a great example. He's not particularly big, but his pressure and his speed and burst is really good.
He's in the right place. Sorry, he's in the right place to tackle though. Like,
he'll hold tackles when he gets bigger.
That's right. Like, the reason why we're pointing this out is because his closing speed is really good and he wraps the guy up. He's just 3 games into an AFL career and he's 160 centimeters tall. You know what I mean? So 160, that's tiny. Yeah. But you know what I mean? So he'll get there. So yeah.
Yeah, he'll get there. And then I guess the other forward, was Trembath, who popped up with 2 nice goals and the Bath. He did some nice things. He had a Darling-esque performance with a couple more goals. So that's the way I describe that game.
I think he was, the offsider. He played that role very, very well. He looked a little bit sore through this game as well. There's a couple of times he was
cramping.
Hamstring, or was it cramp? Geez, I hope it's just cramp. But
it's just cramp.
2 goals, 1. I think he hit the post as well. Hit the post 3. We're hitting the post a lot this season, which is strange. But 2 goals, 1, 9 touches. 4 marks for the day. Yeah, he was good. 2 goals, 1. Should have kicked 3 again. I was hoping for that. But, when you look at our forward line, 3 from Dersma, 2 from Trembath, 2 from Larky. Then you got Dove, Curtis, and Zerha chipping in with 1 each. It's a good return from the forward line. We don't often get midfielders kicking goals at North Melbourne. Blamires and Xerri were the only other goal kickers for the game. Our forward line is working, and I don't think you change it up too much personally. I think it's on the mids to try and kick more goals, and it's on the mids to deliver the ball correctly to the forwards.
Yeah, no, I think you're very right on that. It'll be curious if we lose Xerri next week, what we do with that ruck position.
But there's no other option than CCJ, is there?
No, but then who goes you're not going to ruck CCJ for an entire game either. So it'll probably be Bath going into the
Darling
ruck.
probably comes back in but it's very tall, isn't it? But yeah, I don't know. I guess Trembath's got to ruck a lot. And bring Darling back in potentially, but
that's what you would do. That's what you will do, I think, in the end. That's what we did with CCJ replaced Darling. So
I would almost prefer a full game of Trembath in the ruck, to be honest, and get Darling back down. I know that won't happen, but
no,
CCJ, man, I'm so worried now because
legacy game coming up for CCJ. That was so bad though. Watching the replay, it was not good. But
if we lose Good Friday and our midfield gets destroyed, as a leader, that's so poor from Xerri, mate. Honestly, it's so poor.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll need to see how it goes. You shouldn't be ever relying on one player, but our ruck stocks aren't great at the moment.
When your Ruckman does what Xerri does for us in the middle, mate, I think you have to rely on your Ruckman a lot. It is one player, I understand, but it's not like one of 8 midfielders who are going to go through there. It's one of one Ruckman basically that we've got. It's a very important position. So. I
maybe it's good to get the run into CCJ this game.
Oh, no. Oh, dear me. Look, North Melbourne, please go out and contact Scott Penderbury's lawyer, whichever one he's used or Collingwood Football Club uses for their entire existence. Get him involved. And maybe the AFL will pay Xerri to apologise for getting him to the thing because that's what they seem to do. But whoever, Patrick Dangerfield's lawyer is, that sort of stuff, I'd be making a call this morning very, very quickly. Okay, let's go to. Is there anyone else to talk about? I don't think so. We got a Sean Atlee Club champ.
Not off the top of my head.
Sean Atlee Club champ for me, Joel, and we can order this however you like, and I know which way you might want to do it. For me, it's Parker 3, FOS 2, and then it's either Pink or Dersma for 1 for me. I think Pink's game was fantastic because Caddy was the only threat down there, and Caddy coming out with 1 goal. Fantastic
and no contested marks. He beat him every time in the end.
Yep. One-on-one, Pink was fantastic. It was the Dersma breakout, sort of half breakout game, I guess. But I think Pink deserves it because it was a consistent 4-quarter performance locking him down. But what do you think?
FOS is 3.
Are you sure?
1,000%.
So good.
Yeah, but he kept Zach Merritt, one of the elite AFL mids, to 10 disposals. It has to be FOS. That is a brilliant game.
Right. Okay, we'll go FOS 3. We'll go
FOS 3.
I was 50-50 on it. Look, it could have gone either way for me. I just that.
No one disrespects FOS.
No. Well, if I asked you this last week, you would have said FOS got 3 again for that, to be fair. That'll be your vote every single week. All right, FOS 3, Parker 2, and do you want to go Pink or Dersma? Pink,
I love the Durs and I like the Durs, but Pink, I watched the replay. The amount of times that he beat Caddy in the air, was actually really impressive.
Yeah.
He had an exceptional game. It won't get talked. I'm not sure if it's getting talked about as much in the media or the friends or the, support
if
circle.
Nate Caddy doesn't have a good game, it's just quiet until he has a good one. And then we're going to say he's the next Wayne Carey.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny during the broadcast, they're talking about him as his second coming. And he
very leaves with good player, but very overrated.
Yeah, I mean, he's got at this stage, they're talking about him like he's brilliant. He's got a lot of upside, obviously, but Pink beat him comprehensively.
Yeah. And Pink's an average AFL defender, a solid AFL defender, but he's not an elite defender in the AFL by any means.
No, well, he doesn't have elite attributes, but his brain and his ability to defend is really you have to. Pink, what I'll always say of Pink, and this is not talked about enough, is that you need to beat Pink. Pink is going to not beat himself. He's always going to be able to get to the right spots. He's going to defend you well. You have to be able to be a good forward with good forward craft to beat Pink because his defensive craft is actually really exceptional. He just doesn't have if he had the frame of a Dawson or the frame of a Chom, he would be, one of the best defenders in the AFL. He beats people before the ball gets there, as I like to say. Pink is really, really underrated in his footy brain. He just doesn't have the physical attributes of some of these other defenders. Yeah,
for sure. But one-on-one he could beat.
But he
so
beat
well.
Caddy.
He very rarely gets beaten one-on-one from just how many times have we sat there? Maybe early when he came in a couple of years ago, but the last couple of years, mate, this season and last season,
really solid.
I don't remember many times where I've seen him get beaten. So I think we add Caddy to the Pink Pony Club.
Oh, 1,000. I mean, the last time I think I saw a forward really, like last week, our the defenders got put on top of. But like the last time I remember Pink getting particularly well beaten was against Tom Lynch, and Tom Lynch is all Australian, multiple time premiership player. Like there's a reason that he's getting beaten by players like that. So, but
yeah, golden helmet moment of the game, Joel. Have you got a moment that you want to point out?
Oh, to be honest, I actually think it was the transition from like X did a really, really dumb thing. Like he gave away that 50-meter penalty that turned to 100 because it was really dumb.
Yeah.
And then the ball somehow re-landing in his lap and kicking a goal at some stage, like on that same passage. Like that's probably up there. And
I was going to go the Dersma goal where the defenders weren't looking. I just think his ability, it was so interesting to we were all laughing in the stands watching the defenders for Essendon just stand there.
Yeah. Hands up. The other one as well, that FOS tackle on, there's two actually. The two that I'll bring in, the FOS tackle on Xerri to push us forward. And I think we got another shot on goal. They kicked another shot on goal from that might have put us into a really good spot. And Parker setting the tone on that defensive stop on, who was it with the ball? I think it was Saad Al-Hawali. When he managed to get, Dill got tackled on the line and the ball got out free, and the effort of Parker to get back and end up headering the ball over the goal line. What was a header? So I like those two moments.
Yeah. Well, we could put Parker's in. I think that smart play on the goal line, I think was an important moment. I think. Yeah. So okay, let's go that. But you let us know down below in the YouTube comments what you think the golden helmet moment of the game is. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about over the next few days with the North Melbourne Football Club, like there always is, Joel. But look, let's finish it up here. Good win, move to Good Friday. Tristan, what are you doing to me, mate? Anyway, I hope he plays, but yeah, I think if he gets a week, it's probably deserved. But anyway, we'll see how we go. Joel, thank you for coming on to the podcast once again, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. So let's see how we go next week.
Yeah, terrifying stuff. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Subscribe if you haven't on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Get around there. 5-star reviews always help the podcast out. It's the best way to support Further North. And mailbag, midweek mailbag will be coming back. So stay tuned to the socials at Further North Pod on Instagram, at Further North Podcast on Facebook. I will post up on there and get your questions for midweek mailbag. Talk to you soon, guys. Go North.